The slap echoed through the police station lobby like a gunshot. A black woman's head snapped to the side as a red handprint burned across her cheek. 20 officers froze. Phone stopped recording. Inside a police station, a cop had just assaulted a civilian. "Get out of my station, you black." The word hung in the air, heavy and poisonous. But she didn't scream. She didn't cry. She didn't even touch her face. She slowly turned back, eyes calm, terrifyingly calm. And in a voice steady as stone, she said, "I need to see the mayor." The officer laughed. Seconds later, she said the words that would destroy his entire career. "Officer, I'm your new police chief. Before we begin, comment your country or city, let's see how far this truth travels. And if you believe justice should never fear power, hit like and subscribe. This channel stands for truth. Always." The police station looked ordinary from the outside. Gray concrete. Faded seal above the doors. The kind of place people entered with fear already in their chest. Sarah Johnson stepped inside just after 8 a.m. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Boots echoed on linoleum floors. Officers moved through the lobby laughing, joking, completely at ease. The comfort of people who believed this building belonged to them. She adjusted her plain navy business suit. No badge visible. No escort. Just a leather folder tucked under her arm. At the front desk, Officer Mike Torres leaned back in his chair, coffee in hand, scrolling his phone like he owned the place. He didn't look up. "I'm here to see Mayor Richardson," Sarah said calmly. Torres sighed, annoyed, finally lifting his eyes. And that's when his expression changed. Not confusion. Not curiosity. Contempt. "What do you want with the mayor?" he sneered, eyes sweeping her from head to toe. Around them, officers slowed down. They had seen this before. A black woman asking questions in their station. Sarah kept her voice steady. "I have an appointment." Torres laughed, loud enough for the room to hear. "Sure you do." He stood up slowly, towering over her, invading her space. "This isn't City Hall. This is a police station." Sarah noticed details others wouldn't. The duty roster left open on his desk. Time slots crossed out. Handwritten changes. Torres's name appearing again, and again, and again. Something here was very wrong. But before she could say another word, Torres's smile twisted into something ugly. And his hand came up fast. The lobby didn't explode after the slap. It froze. 20 officers stood mid-step. A phone slipped from someone's fingers and hit the floor with a hollow crack. Even the buzzing fluorescent lights seemed to dim. Sarah Johnson didn't move. She didn't raise a hand to her cheek. Didn't gasp. Didn't flinch. The red mark burned against her dark skin, but her posture stayed straight, controlled, unshaken. That calm unsettled everyone far more than screaming ever could have. Slowly, deliberately, she turned her head back toward Officer Torres. Her eyes met his. No hatred. No fear. Just a steady, unnerving focus that made the air feel thick. "I need to see the mayor," she said. Her voice was flat. Firm. Like someone used to being obeyed. Torres blinked, then laughed. Loud. Cruel. The sound bounced off the walls, giving the others permission to smirk. "The mayor doesn't meet people like you," he sneered. "This is a police station, not a charity office." 2 security guards shifted closer, hands brushing their batons. Sarah noticed everything. The guard's hesitation. The camera above them blinking red. The open duty roster on Torres's desk, lines crossed out in ink, names rewritten, shifts that didn't make sense. Still, she didn't step back. She reached into her jacket pocket, slowly enough that no one could claim she moved suddenly. Torres straightened, puffing his chest. "Don't try anything stupid." Sarah's hand came back out holding a single folded document. And in the same calm tone, she said the words that would shatter the room. Officer Torres. I am your new police chief. For half a second, the words didn't register. Then Torres burst out laughing. A harsh, barking sound that came from deep in his chest. He doubled over, slapping his knee like he'd just heard the joke of the year. Police chief, he wheezed. You? A few officers snorted. Others shook their heads, already dismissing her. This was their station. Their territory. And she clearly didn't belong. Torres leaned forward, wiping tears of laughter from his eyes. Let me guess. You printed some fake paperwork off the internet and thought you could scare us. Sarah unfolded the document and held it out. The city seal gleamed gold under the fluorescent lights. My appointment letter, she said evenly. Signed yesterday by Mayor Richardson. Torres snatched it from her hand. His eyes scanned the page fast at first, confident, mocking. Then slower. His lips stopped moving. For a brief moment, something flickered across his face. Uncertainty. Fear. Then his jaw tightened. Nice try, he growled. He ripped the paper in half. Then again. Then again. The pieces fluttered to the floor like dead leaves. Forgery, he spat. Get this trash out of my station. He turned sharply toward the guards. Johnson. Martinez. Drag her outside. The guards hesitated. Not long. Just a heartbeat. But it was enough. Something about Sarah's stillness, her refusal to beg, to argue, to explain, made them pause. Move! Torres roared. Before anyone could take another step, heavy footsteps echoed from the stairwell above. Slow. Deliberate. The sound of expensive shoes on worn linoleum. Every head turned. And then the laughter died. The footsteps grew louder. Measured. Unhurried. Not the sound of someone rushing. The sound of someone who expected the room to wait for him. Torres was still barking orders when he heard it. Move! I said move. The guard stiffened, confused. Then one of them glanced toward the stairs. Torres turned. The color drained from his face. Mayor Richardson stood at the top of the stairwell, silver hair neatly combed, tailored coat draped over his arm. Two city councilmen followed behind him, their expressions tight, watchful. The entire lobby snapped to attention. Laughter vanished. Smirks died. Conversations evaporated. Officers straightened their uniforms like children caught misbehaving. Torres swallowed hard. Mayor Richardson, he stammered, stepping back. Sir, I can explain. This woman was causing a disturbance. She claimed to be Chief Johnson, the mayor said calmly, walking down the steps. Each word landed like a hammer. He stopped beside Sarah. For the first time since entering the station, Sarah moved. She turned slightly toward him and nodded, professional, composed, as if nothing extraordinary had happened at all. Mr. Mayor, she said. The mayor turned to the room. I see you've already met some of your staff, he said, his voice cool, clipped. Silence pressed in from all sides. Torres's mouth opened. No sound came out. Allow me to be clear, the mayor continued. This is Sarah Johnson. Your new police chief. Effective immediately. The words hit Torres like a physical blow. His knees buckled. He dropped to the floor with a sharp crack, palms slapping against the linoleum as he tried to catch himself. Gasps rippled through the officers. No, 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 Torres whispered. Chief, I didn't know. Please. I didn't know. He crawled forward, hands shaking, reaching for her shoes. Sarah stepped back. Stand up, she said quietly. Her voice held no anger. That terrified him more than shouting ever could. You're embarrassing yourself, she added. Torres couldn't stand. His body shook, years of unchecked power collapsing into panic. Sarah looked around the lobby, at the frozen officers, the blinking camera above them, the torn pieces of her appointment letter scattered on the floor. Then she looked back at the mayor. "No apology necessary," she said calmly. "This has been educational." Torres looked up at her, eyes wide with dread. He had no idea how right she was. The lobby stayed silent long after Torres hit the floor. Mayor Richardson cleared his throat. "Chief Johnson, I want to personally." "I'd like to see the security footage," Sarah said. "Not later." "Not privately." "Now." The mayor paused, then nodded. "Of course." Torres lifted his head sharply. "Sir, that's not necessary. This was just a misunderstanding." Sarah's eyes flicked to him, not with anger, but with calculation. "Officer Parker," she said, turning toward the young woman standing near the water fountain. "Pull up the lobby cameras. Right now." Amy Parker hesitated. Every instinct in her body screamed, "Don't." But something in Sarah's voice, steady, certain, cut through the fear. "Yes, Chief," Amy said, moving to the console. As she typed, Sarah's gaze drifted to the front desk. The duty roster lay open. She stepped closer, scanning the page. Her brow tightened almost imperceptibly. Torres's name appeared again, and again, and again. Morning shifts. Afternoon shifts. Overtime blocks scribbled in ink. Too many. Far too many. "That's interesting," Sarah said quietly. Torres tried to rise, then thought better of it. "Schedules get messy. We're understaffed." "Messy," Sarah repeated. The screen flickered to life. Multiple camera angles filled the monitor. "Go back 1 week," Sarah ordered. Amy rewound the footage. Monday morning. Torres at the desk. A black woman approached. Asked a question. Torres stood up screaming. Security dragged her out. Tuesday. An elderly black man with a cane. Torres shoved him. The man fell. Wednesday. A black teenager asking about his arrested father. Torres slammed him into the wall. Gasps rippled through the room. Sarah's jaw tightened. 5 incidents, she said softly. All during morning hours. Her eyes dropped back to the roster. And all when Officer Torres wasn't even scheduled to be here. She looked at him again. "This isn't just racism," Sarah said. "It's a system." The blinking red light of the camera reflected in Torres's widening eyes. For the first time, real fear set in. Sarah stepped closer to the screen. "Zoom in on Tuesday," she said. Amy obeyed. The footage slowed. Frame by frame. Torres stood at the desk, arms crossed, already irritated before the man with the cane even spoke. "Pause," Sarah said. The image froze. The old man's mouth was open mid-sentence. His hands were visible. Empty. Sarah turned toward the room. "Notice anything?" she asked. No one answered. She pointed at the timestamp. 8:12 a.m. Then at the roster. Officer Torres wasn't scheduled until noon. A murmur rolled through the officers. Sarah crossed to the whiteboard near the watch commander's office and grabbed a marker. She wrote down dates. Times. Names. Monday, 8:07 a.m. Tuesday, 8:12 a.m. Wednesday, 8:09 a.m. Thursday, 8:14 a.m. Friday, 8:05 a.m. All morning. All unscheduled. All involving black civilians. "This isn't a temper problem," Sarah said. "It's a routine." She circled the times. Every morning, before supervision arrives. Before internal affairs opens. Before reporters are awake. She drew a box around the location tag from the footage. Market District Lobby. Torres shifted on the floor. "That's just where people come in." Sarah turned slowly. "No," she said. "It's where they come in." She tapped the screen. Low-income housing 2 blocks away. Public transit stop out front. Social services office across the street. Her voice sharpened. This lobby is a funnel. Silence. She faced the room. He wasn't reacting. He was waiting. A few officers exchanged glances. One swallowed hard. Sarah walked back to Torres and crouched slightly, meeting his eyes. You came in early every day, she said. Off the clock. No body cam. No supervisor. Her voice dropped. You hunted where you knew no one would fight back. Torres clenched his jaw. You think you're smart, he muttered. You think you've got me. Sarah straightened. No, she said calmly. I think you weren't alone. She turned to the room again. Because patterns like this don't survive without protection. Her eyes locked onto the watch commander standing near the stairs. Who approved his overtime? The commander's face drained of color. And who kept deleting the complaints? The blinking cursor on the screen kept flashing. Red. Like a warning. Sarah didn't raise her voice. She didn't have to. Lieutenant Harris, she said, eyes still on the screen, log into the internal complaints system. Harris stiffened. Chief, that database is restricted. I know exactly who it's restricted to, Sarah cut in. And I know your password policy. She finally turned to face him. You have 10 seconds. The room felt smaller. Harris swallowed, then walked to the terminal. His fingers shook as he typed. The dashboard loaded. A long list appeared. Or rather, what was left of one. Sarah leaned in. Filter by race. Black or African American. The list shortened. Now filter by location. Market District Lobby. It shortened again. Now sort by status. Harris hesitated. Do it. He clicked. The word deleted filled the screen. Over and over. 23 entries. Amy Parker gasped. Someone cursed under their breath. Sarah exhaled slowly. 23 complaints, she said. All filed. All erased. Torres laughed weakly from the floor. You can't prove who deleted them. Sarah nodded once. You're right. She looked at Harris again. Pull system logs. His face went pale. Those logs reset every 30 days. Only for patrol access, Sarah replied. Administrative logs are archived for 5 years. She folded her arms. And I helped design that policy. Harris's shoulders slumped. He clicked again. Lines of data streamed down the screen. User IDs. Timestamps. IP addresses. Sarah pointed. There. The same ID appeared again and again. Lieutenant Harris. And another. Captain Monroe. And a third. Deputy Chief Ellison. A ripple of disbelief swept the room. The mayor stepped forward. Deputy Chief Ellison is downtown. Sarah didn't look at him. Call him, she said. Put it on speaker. The phone rang twice. Ellison, a confident voice answered. Deputy Chief, Sarah said calmly. This is Chief Johnson. Silence. Then a sharp inhale. You approved deletion of civilian complaints, she continued. You authorized off-schedule access. And you signed overtime for an officer who wasn't clocked in. Ellison laughed nervously. Chief, this is being blown out of proportion. Sarah's voice hardened. Sir, she said, you are now under internal investigation for obstruction of justice. The room froze. You're suspending me? Ellison snapped. No, Sarah replied. She nodded to the mayor. I'm arresting you. The line went dead. Torres stared at the ceiling, his breathing ragged. The system he thought protected him was collapsing, line by line. File by file. Name by name. By noon, the lobby footage was everywhere. First on local news. Then on national cable. Then clipped, captioned, and reposted millions of times across social media. A shaky phone video showed Torres screaming. Another angle caught him shoving the elderly man. A third froze on Sarah's face as she said, "I'm the new chief." Hashtags exploded. Hashtag Market District PD. Hashtag new chief. Hashtag Blue Shield broken. Outside the station, the crowd swelled. What started as a dozen people holding phones turned into hundreds with signs. Justice delayed is justice denied. Who protects us from them? We warned you. Chants echoed off the concrete walls. Inside, officers stood glued to their screens. Veterans stared in silence. Rookies whispered. Some were angry. Some were ashamed. A few were afraid. Sarah watched the feeds from her temporary office, the blinds half-drawn. Amy Parker knocked softly. "Chief, the governor's office is on line 1. DOJ on line 2. And CNN wants a statement." Sarah nodded once. "Schedule a press conference," she said. 30 minutes. Outside, the mayor approached the podium with shaking hands. "This department is committed to transparency." Boos drowned him out. Sarah stepped forward. The noise faded. Not completely. But enough. "I'm not here to promise comfort," she said into the microphone. "I'm here to deliver accountability." Cameras flashed. Effective immediately, Officer Torres is terminated and charged. 3 senior officers are suspended pending investigation. Federal oversight has been requested. A reporter shouted, "Why didn't this happen sooner?" Sarah didn't dodge it. "Because systems protect themselves," she said. "Until someone interrupts them." Another voice cut in. "Chief, were you targeted today because of your race?" Sarah paused. "I was targeted because some officers believed power makes them untouchable," she said. They were wrong. Behind the barricades, a woman stepped forward. The same woman from the footage, the one Torres had shoved. Her voice trembled, but she spoke anyway. "She believed us," the woman said. For the first time, someone believed us. Applause broke out. Not polite. Raw. The kind that comes from release. Sarah met the woman's eyes and nodded. This wasn't a victory lap. This was the beginning of something dangerous. Because when you expose a system, it doesn't just collapse. It fights back. And somewhere in the city, people who had hidden in the shadows were already deciding what to do next. Even as the crowd dispersed, the tension inside the station thickened. Sarah sat at her desk, reviewing the files Marcus had pulled overnight. Each report, each video clip, each deleted complaint reinforced the same truth: 20 years of corruption, meticulously hidden. Her phone vibrated. A warning. Anonymous. They know. Watch your back. She ignored it. For now. Torres, Hayes, and Mills were out of the way, handcuffed, but the system wasn't. Not completely. By late afternoon, emails flooded the chief's inbox. Anonymous threats. False accusations. Even fabricated complaints about Sarah's leadership started circulating. She read one aloud to Amy, voice steady but eyes hard. "You're destroying lives. You'll regret this. Everyone has a price." Amy's hands trembled. "Chief, it's coming from internal IP addresses." Sarah nodded. "Exactly. They're trying to scare us. They don't understand that fear doesn't work on the prepared." Then came the phone calls. City council members, local business owners, even officers loyal to the old regime. Each call carefully worded, dripping with implication. Careful what you do. The community is divided. The press, smelling scandal, began digging into Sarah's past. Military service? They questioned it. Academic record? They misrepresented it. Online trolls targeted her ethnicity. Every social media platform lit up with vitriol. Sarah leaned back, eyes on the blinking camera above the desk. That lens had captured the truth, it was now her shield. Marcus spoke quietly from the IT corner. "Chief, they're trying to sabotage the database. Multiple login attempts. They want to delete the rest of the records." "Lock it down," Sarah ordered. "Full administrative override. No one touches a single file." Amy added, "We also have the duty rosters and video backups offline, right?" "Yes," Sarah said. "Even if they think they can burn evidence, we have copies stored across 3 servers off-site. Every transaction, every complaint, every bit of extortion is secured." Just then, a young officer approached, sweat on his brow. "Chief, there's a protest planned at City Hall tomorrow. Allegedly, they're using your name as the reason. Some of our old officers are inciting people." Sarah's jaw tightened. "Good. Let them show their cards. Transparency isn't just internal, it's public. We welcome it." Mills's last supporter, still in custody, had been released pending charges and was reportedly rallying allies online. Threats escalated to physical intimidation, vandalism at the homes of minority officers, anonymous letters to the families of internal affairs personnel. Amy whispered, "They're going after civilians now. They want to break morale." Sarah's voice dropped to steel. "Then we protect everyone. Every officer. Every civilian. Every vendor in the market district. If they think fear will make us surrender, they're about to learn something else." Her eyes met Amy's, resolute. "This isn't just about policing. This is about rewriting the rules. And nothing, threats, smear campaigns, intimidation, will stop us from seeing justice through." Marcus typed rapidly, monitoring network activity. "Chief, I'm tracking every attempt. They're organized, coordinated, but they're sloppy. We'll catch them." Sarah smiled faintly. "Let them try. They've been hiding in shadows for decades. The light's on now. There's no place to run." By the 3rd day, the station was no longer a fortress of fear. Young officers, inspired by Sarah's resolve, began speaking openly. Officer Jackson approached cautiously at first, voice low. "Chief, I've seen it. All the ghost shifts, the bribes, the intimidation. I didn't report it before. I was scared. But now I will." Sarah nodded. "Good. Courage is contagious. The right thing to do is never easy, but it always matters." Officer Rodriguez followed, carrying a stack of files. "I've compiled recruitment data over the past 3 years. There are gaps, omissions, patterns that show favoritism and bias. It's all here, ready for review." Amy stepped forward with her phone in hand, already cataloging 2 years' worth of videos and photos. "I've shared copies with you, Chief. Nothing left in my possession can be deleted." Even mid-level officers, previously loyal to the old regime, began questioning the code of silence. They spoke quietly at first, then louder, confirming incidents, offering details, confessing complicity. Sarah listened, absorbing every detail. She made notes, mapped connections, and prioritized accountability. Her calm authority inspired confidence. Outside, the community began to mobilize. Market vendors, previously fearful of police retaliation, now gathered voluntarily to testify. Mrs. Chen brought her oranges, placing them on the counter of the lobby as a gesture of support. "You protected my daughter," she said. "Now we protect the truth." Children waved from the curb, families joined in small groups, holding homemade signs. "Justice is here. We see you. Accountability matters." Local media amplified their voices, broadcasting Sarah's commitment to systemic reform. The public began to rally not against the police, but in support of the officers brave enough to uphold the law. Sarah walked the station floor, acknowledging individuals, checking on teams, and quietly giving guidance. Every interaction matters, she reminded them. Not just arrests or citations, but respect, fairness, transparency. That's policing. Young officers took notes, older veterans softened, some moved from doubt to cautious optimism. The balance of power was shifting. The old culture of intimidation and silence was cracking, replaced by a sense of shared responsibility. Marcus monitored networks, ensuring data integrity, while Amy coordinated evidence cataloging. Each ally, officer, civilian, IT specialist, became part of a growing web of accountability. Sarah paused at the window overlooking the market district. She watched vendors set up without fear, children play freely, and neighbors interact openly. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. She turned back to her team. Courage doesn't just inspire change, it protects it. We stand together now. Not for me, not for power, but for every person this badge represents. The room, once tense and fractured, now vibrated with quiet determination. Allies had emerged. The community, once silenced, now stood alongside them. Change was no longer theoretical, it was tangible, immediate, unstoppable. The conference room was tense. Sarah stood at the head of the long table, projector casting the faces of victims across the wall. Vendors, children, families, every photo a silent accusation. Torres, Hayes, and Mills were seated handcuffed, faces pale, beads of sweat tracing lines down their temples. Amy Parker stepped forward, phone in hand, her calm voice carrying through the room. This is everything I've recorded over the last 2 years. Every bribe, every intimidation, every assault. Marcus displayed the files on the big screen, clear, undeniable, chronological evidence. Videos of Torres shoving elderly vendors. Audio of Hayes planning extortion. Logs of ghost shifts, overtime theft, and falsified reports. Sarah's voice cut through the silence. This is not a witch hunt. This is accountability. Every action you took has consequences. And these consequences begin now. Torres tried to speak. I didn't, it wasn't like that. Sarah held up her hand. Quiet. Watch and understand. One by one, young officers who had remained silent began recounting what they witnessed. Jackson described the fear that kept him quiet. Rodriguez detailed missing reports he had quietly archived. Even veteran officers admitted knowing about overtime manipulation and ghost shifts. Mills' last supporter, now cornered, muttered, I just followed orders. Sarah's eyes met his. Following orders does not absolve you. You made choices. And those choices affect lives. Hayes shifted uncomfortably, glancing at his phone. Messages from unseen allies, threats, excuses, all meaningless now. Then, Amy began playing audio recordings. Hayes and Torres' voices filled the room, discussing market vendor intimidation, cash envelopes, and how to manipulate the system for personal gain. Gasps echoed. Even the most hardened officers flinched. Sarah walked slowly down the table, eyes scanning each guilty party. Do you see now? Your network of intimidation and theft is no longer hidden. The evidence is complete, public, and undeniable. Torres slumped, muttering, We can explain. You can try, Sarah said softly, but with steel in her tone. But explanations do not erase facts. Confessions do. Cooperation mitigates consequences. Resistance amplifies them. One by one, confessions began. Initially reluctant, voices shaking, words halting. Then, steadily, truth poured out. I approved the ghost shifts. I signed off on overtime for work never done. I watched vendors get pushed and never reported it. By the end of the morning, every participant in the corruption network had either confessed or was exposed through irrefutable evidence. Sarah turned to Amy. Document everything. Every confession, every admission. We file this with federal oversight. We protect the whistleblowers. We prosecute the perpetrators. Amy nodded, tears welling in her eyes. It's all here, Chief. Sarah glanced at the faces on the screen, the victims. They had waited decades for justice. Now, thanks to the courage of a few, the shield of silence had been shattered. Justice, Sarah said quietly, voice carrying through the room, is not about punishment alone. It's about truth, transparency, and restoring what was stolen. And today, we begin that restoration. With confessions secured and evidence documented, Sarah turned her focus to systemic reform. The conference room transformed into a command center. Whiteboards filled with timelines, lists of reforms, and assignments. Every officer, young and old, was involved. Accountability was no longer a choice, it was mandatory. Sarah addressed the department. This isn't about removing a few bad apples. It's about changing the tree itself. Transparency, accountability, and community partnership are non-negotiable. Every policy previously ignored or manipulated was rewritten. Overtime now required digital verification and biometric clock-ins. Every citizen complaint went directly to an independent review board. Body cameras remained activated at all times, with automatic cloud backup to prevent tampering. Amy Parker, now Assistant Director of Internal Affairs, took charge of the tip line, accessible in multiple languages. Every call matters. Every concern will be logged and investigated, she said, her voice steady with newfound authority. Recruitment shifted focus. The department sought officers who understood service as responsibility, not power. Minority representation increased, and youth programs were introduced to teach respect and community partnership. Veterans and recruits trained side by side, learning de-escalation and cultural awareness. Outside, the market district reflected change. Vendors operated without fear. Children played freely. The community began to trust their police once more. Sarah made weekly visits, not to enforce, but to listen. Every transaction, every interaction, was a chance to rebuild the bond that had been shattered for decades. Internally, officers who had remained loyal to corruption were given a choice: full confession and cooperation or legal consequences. Many opted to step forward. The atmosphere shifted, fear and intimidation gave way to integrity and collaboration. Even skeptical veterans began mentoring younger officers in ethical policing, passing on experience without the taint of past misconduct. Sarah implemented public dashboards. Every arrest, every citation, every complaint was searchable and accessible to the community. Transparency wasn't a slogan, it was a daily practice. Amy oversaw internal audits, ensuring that financial integrity and operational transparency became ingrained. Marcus fortified IT systems to protect evidence and maintain accountability. In the station, sunlight streamed through windows once blocked by opaque barriers. Walls were repainted, glass replaced concrete where possible. Citizens could see in, officers could see out. The physical space reflected the department's new ethos: open, accountable, and approachable. Sarah gathered her leadership team. We've survived the exposure, the retaliation, the smear campaigns. Now, we ensure it never happens again. This badge is a symbol of service, not dominance. Every decision, every interaction, reflects our commitment to justice. Amy, Rodriguez, and Jackson nodded in unison. They were no longer silent witnesses, they were active participants in the transformation. Outside, the city noticed. Community meetings were filled to capacity. Officers were approachable. Complaints were taken seriously. Trust, though fragile, began to grow. The department's reset wasn't instantaneous. Change required vigilance, courage, and consistency. But every small act of accountability, every honest interaction, became a brick in a foundation stronger than fear or corruption. Sarah looked out at the market district from her office, watching families, vendors, and officers interacting. A faint smile formed. Decades of injustice would not be erased in days, but for the first time in a generation, justice had a fighting chance. Weeks after the overhaul, the city began to feel alive in a new way. Market vendors no longer glanced nervously over their shoulders. Mrs. Chen, carrying oranges, greeted Sarah with a smile instead of fear. My daughter is coming to the youth cadet program next week, she said, pride in her voice. She wants to be an officer, like you. Sarah knelt slightly to meet her eyes. Tell her our doors are open to everyone. Courage is what matters, not skin color, wealth, or status. At the station, Amy Parker ran her first internal affairs meeting with confidence. Young officers sat around the table, notebooks ready. Each complaint, each tip, was addressed immediately. Transparency isn't policy, Amy explained. It's a daily habit. Every citizen deserves our full accountability. Officer Rodriguez, now head of recruitment, spoke to a new class of recruits. We're not looking for warriors. We're looking for neighbors. People who understand that a badge is a responsibility, not a weapon. Children of the market district played freely, vendors set up stalls without fear, and the neighborhood felt alive with trust. Officer Washington walked the streets, helping people, buying fruit, chatting with families. Force is failure, he told a new recruit. Every person you help, every conflict you prevent, that's real policing. Sarah herself walked weekly among the community. She bought vegetables from Mr. Martinez, fish from Mr. Washington, and flowers from the Kim family. She listened, encouraged, and watched. The transformation was slow, careful, deliberate. Trust had to be earned, not demanded. At the station lobby, sunlight streamed through new windows, replacing the oppressive concrete walls of the old regime. Citizens now filed complaints, collected forms, and interacted with officers openly. No fear. Just dialogue. Just accountability. Sarah stood where Torres had slapped her 3 months prior. She touched the spot lightly. This used to be where hope died, she said softly to Amy, who joined her. Now, it's where justice lives. The community responded. Anonymous tip lines flooded with calls. Minor issues, broken streetlights, missing pets, disputes, were addressed quickly, showing the department's commitment to even the smallest concerns. Youth programs flourished. Mrs. Chen's daughter, along with 30 other minority youths, trained with pride. Uniforms symbolized opportunity, not fear. Recruits learned de-escalation, empathy, and the real meaning of service. Sarah pinned her badge to her uniform, reflecting in the sunlight. This isn't power. It's responsibility. Courage lives in every person willing to stand for truth, regardless of fear. From the camera above, every interaction, every improvement, every small victory was recorded. The story was no longer just theirs, it belonged to the community. 3 months ago, a man had struck her because of her skin. He thought violence was power. He thought fear was control. She stepped closer to the camera and spoke. He was wrong. Justice doesn't happen on its own. It doesn't fall from the sky. It grows, nurtured by courage, action, and accountability. One voice, one video, one call, that's how change begins. Be the change. Record injustice. Stand up. Speak out. The lobby, the streets, the market district, all of it thrummed with life again. A broken system was healing, piece by piece, act by act. The camera blinked steadily overhead, capturing the new reality. Justice was no longer abstract. It was present, alive, and unstoppable. The city had changed. Inside the police station, sunlight spilled across the floors, reflecting off polished badges and smiling faces. Officers walked with purpose, not intimidation. Citizens moved freely, confident their voices would be heard. Sarah stood in the lobby where it all began. The spot where Torres had struck her was no longer a scar of fear but a marker of transformation. She held her chief's badge in her hand, gold glinting in the afternoon light. This isn't power, she whispered to Amy, beside her. It's responsibility. And courage is the currency. Amy, now fully embracing her role as Assistant Director of Internal Affairs, smiled faintly through tears. We've built something lasting, Chief. A system where truth isn't hidden, where justice is for everyone. Outside, the market district thrived. Vendors displayed goods without hesitation. Children laughed and played. Families walked confidently, knowing that their local police were no longer predators but protectors. Sarah visited weekly, checking on progress, listening to concerns, and mentoring the next generation. The youth cadet program blossomed. Minority youths, once intimidated by authority, now trained proudly. Mrs. Chen's daughter had joined, her eyes shining with determination. Sarah knelt and whispered, "Remember, courage is what defines you." Fear never built anything lasting. Inside, every officer understood their role in maintaining integrity. Transparency wasn't a policy on paper anymore. It was a daily practice. Every action, every decision, every interaction carried accountability. Sarah's reforms went beyond discipline. Public dashboards, community meetings, video recordings, anonymous tip lines, and mentorship programs created a culture that could withstand corruption for generations. The lessons of the past became the foundation for the future. And yet, vigilance remained crucial. Sarah glanced at the security camera overhead. It had recorded every act of injustice, every act of courage, and now, every act of accountability. "We can't stop," she said quietly. "Corruption doesn't sleep. Neither can our commitment to justice." Amy stood beside her. "We've given the community hope, Chief. They've seen that one person, one phone, one voice can change everything." Sarah nodded. Her gaze swept across the lobby, the market, the officers, and the community beyond. "This badge, this authority, this uniform, they belong not to us, but to the people. And we must always remember, courage lives in everyone. It only takes one person refusing to stay silent to spark change." The camera continued to blink, capturing every interaction, every smile, every act of service. The legacy of change was alive, a living proof that justice begins not in the halls of power, but in the hearts of those willing to stand, speak, and act. As Sarah pinned her badge back onto her uniform, she looked directly into the lens. "To everyone watching, remember this: injustice exists everywhere, but courage exists in everyone. Stand. Record. Speak. Change begins with you." The lobby buzzed with life. Justice was no longer a distant ideal. It was present, tangible, and unstoppable, a testament to courage, persistence, and the unwavering pursuit of truth.